so much, Sonia, for the warm introduction and for having us today and giving us this great opportunity once again to be here. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us and welcome to RBC and ACCES collaboration event. And the next slide is actually my bio. And so my name is Nazanin. I'm the Assistant Branch Manager at RBC Meeting Place. So we work very closely with ACCES Employment, and as we share the same vision and value and passion for newcomer community, and we really value this partnership. So we are very excited to be here today as we're going to talk about facts you need to know about saving and investment in Canada. So that like moving to a new country is a major life-changing event, and there's so much to do, so much to learn. And I'm sure you probably have so many questions about where to save, how to invest, or like how to reach out your goals. So that's why we are here today, to help you save and invest with confidence. So also we have a very, very special guest today. We have Julian Jacob. So he is one of the most experienced and knowledgeable investment specialists in the market. But not only that, he's also so passionate about newcomer community, and he has participated so many events with us. So fortunate to have him today, and we're gonna hear from him very shortly. So we also have Jeff Price, at our community branch manager, and Ria Raghbir, our banking advisor, on the line, and I'm gonna introduce them shortly later on. So now, on the next slide, I'm going to talk about the agenda and what we have for you today. So we heard from Sonia already, and next we're going to have our community branch manager, Jeff Price, to welcome from RBC. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about RBC value and purpose, and Ria going to introduce RBC Meeting Place, where we work. And next, we're going to get into the main presentation. Again, the topic is facts you need to know about investment and saving in Canada. And as I said, Julian has a lot to offer, and delivered today is going to be lots of takeaways from about like investing plans available in Canada, as he's going to talk about the difference between registered and non-registered plan, tricky and also tricky investing principles. So, and then we're going to get to at the end we're going to get into the Q&A. So please feel free to enter your questions in the chat box at the bottom. All right, so let's get started. So, as I said, the first person I would like to introduce is Jeff Price, our community branch manager, who is also very passionate about newcomer communities, and that's why he attends almost all of our advice events. So, Jeff is also responsible for one of the largest branches in Markham, which is Highway 7 and 404, as well as RBC Meeting Place, and he has an 18-year career as a banking professional and leader with a strong passion for helping his clients and employees achieve their goals. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us. So I'm handing it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Naz, for the intro. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us today. We are very fortunate to have Julian here. I've known Julian a very long time, and he's somebody that if we can get him out, we're very happy to have him. So thank you, Julian, for giving us your time today. I do want to thank Sonia and ACCES for the partnership and the opportunity to present the topic today on investing and saving in Canada. Lots of different things, from different jurisdictions that you need to know about, and things that you want to know before you make your investment decisions. And so these sessions are fantastic. And as always, I have to thank Naz and Ria for all the work you guys do behind the scenes to make these go off so amazing every time. So you guys make it look easy, even though I know it's not. So thank you guys for that, and enjoy the event.
Perfect. Thank you so much once again. So before we get to the main presentation, I'm going to also talk a little bit about RBC. So, so the purpose of RBC is actually helping clients thrive and communities prosper. And the next slide. So, and our vision is to be among world's most trusted and successful financial institution. So all of the achievements that we did is to living our values. So RBC has around 80,000 employees that we all guided by one set of values. So first is client first. So we always earn the right to be our client's first choice. So second is collaboration. So we win as one RBC. We are partners and we work together as one RBC to make sure our clients clients and our communities prosper. The other one is accountability. So we take our ownership for personal and collective high performance. And the other one, diversity and inclusion. So I think that's why we are so successful, just like Canada. That is a very successful and very attractive country to live in because of the diversity of thoughts, experience, and people all around the world bring their own perspective, same as RBC. So, and the last but not the least is integrity. So we hold ourselves to the highest standards to build trust, because without trust, there really isn't any business. So you do business with someone because you trust in them. So that was also a little bit about RBCs that I wanted to share with you. So now I would like to hand it over to Ria to introduce herself and talk a little bit about RBC Markham Meeting Place on the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naz. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this wonderful collaboration with RBC Meeting Place and ACCES Employment. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Ria. I am a banking advisor at RBC Meeting Place. And similar to Naz, when I came to Canada, I had many challenges, and I needed to quickly adapt to my new home of Canada. And I'm thankful to have joined RBC that same year. And here I was able to build my personal and my professional connections within RBC. Now, as a banking advisor and at the Newcomer Advice Center, RBC Meeting Place, I am a connector to these key services for the newcomers. And this is what we essentially help with to help our communities thrive. We have a wide network of community partners like ACCES Employment and extensive resources that we can call on and to connect our newcomers depending on their need. I truly enjoy being present in the community to create such awareness, and especially to get to work with organizations like ACCES Employment to empower the newcomers with our financial literacy and investment session today. And then on our next slide, and also because I get to work with wonderful folks like Jeff Price and Nazanin, we are a small team. This is our core team, and we all embrace the RBC purpose and value, and we share the same vision and similar passions for the newcomer community. However, on our next slide, we have an extensive support team varying from different branches, different departments, regions, all with the same goal of wanting to be in the community and to give back as well. Today, we've partnered with Julian for this event to share his knowledge and expertise on all things investment related, and you'll hear from Julian shortly. And the location that Sonia was talking about is on our next slide. It's our Markham location. It's located at Highway 7 and Leslie, 8500 Leslie Street in Richmond Hill. We are an advice-giving branch. We've created a warm and welcoming environment to provide the support, the guidance, the resources, the information to the community. And here at this location is where I've met many ACCES clients 2 years ago that I consider friends as well. And for our community partners, we're so grateful and so proud to have the partners like ACCES Employment, who's one of our key partners throughout this entire journey. Together, we can reach out and have those meaningful connections and to make a greater impact in our community. Through innovative programs and our partnerships, RBC Meeting Place is creating new ways to introduce newcomers to networks, to opportunities, and advice events like today, mentoring, employment resources to help with settlement in Canada easier. And since we've opened our doors on our next slide in early 2019, we were able to create such awareness through our events and our community involvement. And here are just a few of our in-person events that we've had in 2019 that we've hosted and facilitated. But then if you fast forward a little bit on our next slide to 2020, we've taken our reach digitally, just like today, where we host all our events via WebEx and Zoom. And here we are still able to connect with our clients, provide the guidance and resources that they may need. And now for the highlight of our event. On our next slide, I would like to introduce my wonderful colleague, Julian, with a 19-year career as a professional in investment and estate and tax planning. He brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to share with everyone today. So I know I'm ready to take notes. So over to you, Julian.
Hi, good morning, and thank you everybody for the warm introduction. And it's absolutely my pleasure to be here to discuss
and provide some insight on some of the accounts and investments that we have available in Canada. The information that I'm going to be going over can be very overwhelming, and we understand that. The goal for today is to hopefully you pick a couple of little pieces that might resonate with you or might be helpful to you. And later on in the slideshow, all of our contact information is available, it does put a smile on my face when somebody connects with me after one of these sessions through LinkedIn or directly through my RBC email, and no question is too small or too big. Well, we have the resources in order to find the answers for you, or at least point you in the right direction if there's something specific that kind of comes up that you would like to get a little bit more information on. So again, hopefully it's not overwhelming, but we do know that it can be, depending on how long and your experience with investing and the different accounts are in Canada, but we're here to assist. Sonia, next slide, please. So the coming into Canada, as Ria and Nazanin have outlined, there's so many different things that you need to take care of, become familiar with, and one of those things has become the investment planning, or what to do with the money when your money is now sitting in Canada, or you've gotten a job and you're earning and you're creating wealth in there. Sonia, next slide, please. There we go. So newcomers to Canada, 63% say investing or making a financial plan is one of their top challenges. They don't know which direction to go. They don't know who to ask. And that is why we set up these advice events, in order to provide an opportunity to shed some light, as well as provide some insight as to where to find the resources in order to address short-term goals that you may have, or longer-term goals that you may have. And on the next slide, we always advocate for having that one-on-one. Again, circling back, if you do have a question or questions, reach out to any one of us, and we'll be able to provide the assistance. The internet can be a large and scary place when searching for information, and may as well lean on a team like ourselves in order to get the right answers first off, and probably with a little less searching and frustration when sifting through all the information that's available on the internet. So on the next slide, I'm going to go through a couple of the different plans that are available in Canada, and provide some explanation behind when we use certain ones and when we use other ones. So what a registered plan is designed by the Government of Canada, and there are a few different registered plans, which I will get into. But the primary purpose for these registered plans typically is for a specific goal, and I'll use a retirement goal as an example, that allows you to save in a very tax efficient way. We have conversations with clients who have come to Canada, who have come from countries with very low tax rates, and they come to Canada, and they get their first paycheck, and they see their pay stub, and their eyes bulge out, and they can't believe how much tax is taken off in comparison to what they were accustomed to. So, one of the things that helps with that transition or experience of, seeing, larger amounts of tax being taken off, is taking advantage of these registered plans that the Government of Canada has in order to mitigate and lower your overall tax burden, and as well as save for your particular goal. So those are registered plans. And then we refer to non-registered plans. A non-registered plan consists of anything that the government isn't providing a tax opportunity to invest in. So in a registered plan, there are lots of tax efficiencies, and a non-registered plan, there are no tax efficiencies. And I'll get into that a little bit more. When it comes to the financial benefit, each plan has a different benefit, and how much you can contribute into the plans will vary. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution or account when it comes to making those investment decisions and how much to contribute. And there are age limits associated with some of the registered plans. When it comes to the non-registered plans, there is technically no age limit. There are no contribution limits. You don't have to earn contribution room. But again, there are very, very few financial benefits with the non-registered plans. So on the next slide, we're just going to go through and show you the different registered plans that are most common in Canada. Tax-free savings account, or TFSA, is a relatively new one. It's been around since 2009, so around 10, 11 years now. And basically, it's after-tax dollars that you put into this account, okay? So for instance, if you have $5,000 and you put it into a tax-free savings account, you have the option to, let that money grow. Any growth that you have on that $5,000 will not be taxed, and you do not have to report it as income on your income tax. When you take that money out of the tax-free savings account, the same rules apply. There are no tax implications with taking money out of the tax-free savings account, and you do not have to report anything on your taxes. So essentially, they've done a very good job with describing the account in the name. You do not have to pay tax on any money that you earn within the tax-free savings account. There are limits in the tax-free savings account, and it depends on how long you've been a resident of Canada for. And typically, just to keep things simple, as of this point, the last couple of years, if you've been a resident and you've been filing taxes in Canada, you have the ability to put $6,000 per year into the tax-free savings account. So that $6,000 is cumulative, which means that last year, if you did not utilize the TFSA, this year you haven't used it, and maybe next year you think that you would like to make a contribution to it or have the ability to, you're not missing out on what you've accumulated for just being a resident of Canada filing taxes here. That $6,000 will be added to the $6,000 for this year, and if it's $6,000 next year, your total contribution limit would be $18,000. And so that's a little bit about the tax-free savings account. Tax-free savings account can be used for both short-term and long-term goals. So because there's no tax implications, it doesn't matter if you're making $20,000 a year or $120,000 a year, because those are two very, very different tax brackets. Whatever you take out of the tax-free savings account, whatever you earn in the tax-free savings account, it is a zero tax liability. Doesn't matter what tax bracket you're in. So it's a very, very flexible way to save. The RSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan, is designed for retirement. So we do not recommend clients putting money into an RSP if they feel that they're going to need it for the short term. So what the RSP does is it provides a immediate or relatively immediate tax break. So if we were to use a $10,000 contribution to an RSP, that would trigger, and you're in a, let's say you're in a 30% tax bracket based on, you know, how much you're earning. Based on that contribution, you would expect a $3,000 tax return when you file your taxes the following year. If you're in a 20% tax bracket, it's a $2,000 you know, tax return for that. But again, the money that you put into an RSP should be earmarked for retirement. So depending on what your plans are to stay in Canada, an RSP may not be the right investment vehicle, even though that you're getting this tax efficiency up front. But again, circling back to a slide that we showed 4 or 5 slides ago, is that it's really important to have a conversation one-on-one and not guess as to what the proper investment registered account is. Have a conversation with your advisor or an advisor in order to get the right advice associated with your particular situation. So the difference between an RSP and a tax-free savings account is number one, an RSP, you receive an immediate tax benefit if you're earning income and you have a tax bracket. The difference, though, is that with an RSP, when you fast forward to when it's time to retire and you start to kind of pull money out in order to fund your retirement, whatever money you take out of the RSP will have to be added as income to your income tax filing. So the concept associated with the RSP is put money in now, receive a tax benefit immediately or when you file your taxes for that particular calendar year, and then fast forward to when you retire and you invest the money within the RSP, and I'll get into that a little bit later. When you invest the money within the RSP and it grows tax-free up until the point you start taking it out. So again, that's another benefit with an RSP, is that you don't have to pay tax on any earnings or gains in the RSP account on an annual basis. You're only paying tax when you start taking money out of the RSP. So it's a really, really powerful tool. 99% of the time, it makes financial sense to open up an RSP and use the benefits associated with it. There are certain circumstances, again, when it comes to longevity, and if you feel that you are going to retire in Canada or not, that it might not be the best investment vehicle. The other piece is that there are some business owners that it may not benefit depending on their particular situation. But again, that's an individual conversation to have. As previously mentioned, 99% of the time it makes financial sense to take a look at an RSP and invest in an RSP. It will build your wealth a lot quicker than using after-tax dollars in a tax-free savings account or a non-registered account. So those are the two main ones. And I'll get into them a little bit more in the next slide. Just going to briefly mention the RESP, so Registered Education Savings Plan. This is fantastic if you have children and you would like to have some money tucked away for their post-secondary education, university, college, etc. Essentially, the government, the Canadian government, will give you 20% of your contribution that you put into an RESP. So if you were to put in $2,500, which is the maximum on an annual basis to attract this grant, this 20% grant, you put in $2,500, the government is going to put $500 in. And the sole purpose of that particular account is to help fund tuition and books or any other expenses, whether it's transportation or housing for post-secondary education for your child. So it's a very, very powerful tool, and it works very, very well. The Registered Disability Savings Plan is another one. If you or a loved one has a disability identified and acknowledged by the Canadian government. There are some tax benefits associated with saving in a registered disability savings plan. And again, that one is strictly for retirement purposes. There's really no other purpose to save in a RDSP. It's strictly for retirement purposes in order to assist a person with a disability and try to keep as much as the other benefits associated with the disability tax credit that the government provides for people identified with a disability. On to the next slide. So the next slide just shows how powerful investing in a TFSA can be when you don't have to pay tax on the earnings and the growth within our tax-free savings account. So this slide over here shows a $5,000 contribution on an annual basis, and assuming a 6% annual growth, which is what we would consider a moderate, so middle of the road risk reward type of portfolio, and over a 10-year period, the tax savings, and this particular slide is making an assumption that your tax bracket is 30% or 32% to be precise. And you can see that your account would be approximately $7,000 higher by using a TFSA versus a non-registered account, okay? So you can invest exactly the same thing inside a TFSA as a non-registered account, just the tax efficiency within the TFSA is obviously 100% tax efficient because you're not paying any taxes on it during the growth or when you take money out. So that's a 10-year kind of snapshot. You'd have $7,000 more with making those assumptions. And if you were to take a look at a 20-year time horizon, this is where it becomes very powerful. Not paying taxes, again, 32% is the assumption. If you were in a higher tax bracket, these numbers are just going to be that much better. So 20 years, you're looking at a $38,000 difference between the non-registered investment and the tax and investment within the tax-free savings account. Move on to the next slide, please. So here's some plan options for temporary residents and permanent residents. Temporary residents, very, very limited. Essentially, the tax-free savings account opens up for you. Again, the limit is going to be very, very small depending on how long you've been in Canada. It's not going to be all that efficient. If you've only been around for 1 or 2 years. However, permanent residents have access to all of those. I just noticed on this slide, the RDSP isn't listed on there for permanent residents, but it is available for permanent residents. Temporary residents, again, they do not have access to the RDSP. And on to the next slide. So I explained it a little bit when it with what happens and the benefit associated with making a contribution to an RSP. $5,000 will go in to a registered RSP account, and all that means is that if you're making $40,000 annually and claiming $40,000 in income, and you make a $5,000 contribution, that $5,000 contribution essentially is going to turn around, and when you file your taxes, the government is going to look at your $40,000 as what they're going to tax you on. They're only going to tax you on the 35. So if you were in a 30% tax bracket and you put a $5,000 contribution in, you would expect $1,500 to come back to you in the form of a tax refund, as long as your employer is making the necessary contributions or deductions with your income. Now, I'm just going to pause and kind of go, take a detour over here because we have come across situations where a individual new to Canada or not, maybe just new to the workforce, might have multiple jobs. Okay, so they might have like one job, you know, a couple of part-time jobs in order to establish themselves and get that income going. What the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, and the agency that takes care of making sure that we all pay our taxes, what they do is that they take your total income and then request, basically, you know, do the calculation based on your total income. And we've had circumstances where, let's say, for instance, we have somebody with two part-time jobs, one that's, you know, earning $20,000 a year and the other one earning $20,000 a year. Those two employers do not talk to each other when it comes to deducting tax. So one employer is making an assumption that you're only making $20,000 a year, and they're going to tax you at, let's say, a 10% tax rate. The other employer is going to assume the same thing. If you're making $20,000 a year, they might tax you at 10%. However, when you go and file your taxes and you have $20,000 on one side, $20,000 on the other, and they combine them, CRA takes a look at it and says, you know what, you know, you've made $40,000, and when you make $40,000, your tax bracket is actually 20%. So you've only had 10% deducted from one employer. You've only had 10% deducted from one employer. It's 10% on $40,000, whereas it's going to be higher once you do your taxes. So it's very important not to get surprised if you do have multiple sources of income. The other situation where you know, clients and residents can get surprised is that if they've earned income with one employer for a few months and then started another job and earned for the remainder of the year, the amount of tax that is taken might be lower than what CRA is going to calculate for you. So again, lean on your advisor, an accountant, or shoot us a message, and we'll do our best in order to point you in the right direction to if you do have concerns associated with some of that information that I just tossed out there, because you don't want to be surprised when it comes to that type of thing. All right. Sonia, can we skip 2 slides, please, to registered plans and, oh, back up one. My lunch, picture of my lunch. There we go, there we go. So this particular slide over here starts getting into the discussion about what to invest in within a registered plan or a non-registered plan. And the description over here is that the visual is that the registered plan is the bun. If we're building a sandwich, the registered plan is the bun. So if the bun could be a tax-free savings account, the bun could be an RSP, RDSP, RESP. Now we have to decide what to put in it. And what to put in it depends on your timeline as to when you're going to need the funds, as well as your personal risk tolerance. So if I were to give an example of a registered retirement savings plan, the bun would be the RSP, and then we would sit down and have a conversation with the client about what we're putting in between those buns. And the you know, for RSPs, typically it's a longer term time horizon. And if you have a longer term time horizon, generally speaking, you can take on more risk because you don't have to worry about short-term fluctuations that you might see in the stock market, bond market, and mutual fund markets in general. So we would open up our toolbox, so to speak, and take a look at some options that were a little bit more risky, but have proven over time that you are able to grow your money in a much more efficient manner than, let's say, sitting in a plain savings account. Like right now, savings accounts are earning almost next to nothing. So if you were to put your money and use kind of that middle, the middle part of the sandwich, considered a savings account, it's not going to be much. you're not going to see much growth out of it. If we turn around and say, like, listen, you know what, we can do a little bit, you don't have a high risk tolerance, let's just get you started, we can look at a very conservative portfolio that's primarily developed out of bonds, which is not an exciting way to invest, but most likely going to earn you a higher return than have it sitting in a savings account. And then you're going to see that money grow more than you would if it's in a just a regular savings account, again, within the RRSP. And then we have the stock market, mutual funds, and the more stocks that you have in your portfolio, as long as they're large, reputable, long-term history, that's probably where you're going to see the most and best rate of return over time in that. You're going to have more volatility over the short term, but you're going to have a longer, you're going to have a better rate of return over the long term. And this goes for, again, all of the different registered plans, whether it's a tax-free saving, an RSP, RDSP, or RESP. You get to make a decision. If you're comfortable with it, you can make that decision yourself, or if you need some assistance, have a conversation with an advisor in order to get the advice and make sure that you're not putting something that's very, very risky into your tax-free savings account when you know you're going to need that tax-free savings account in a year or two. Maybe you're saving for a down payment. You want to be more conservative. You want to take on less risk with shorter term time horizons when it comes to investing, again, generally speaking. The next slide, please. So this next slide shows the benefit of diversification. Very, very busy slide, but as you can tell, there's not one consistent outperforming sector that happens every single year. Now, the U.S. equities have dominated the top part of the equation over the last 10 years, but they're not always the best when it comes to it. Right now, RBC Global Asset Management, which runs all of our mutual funds and our portfolios, they have obviously U.S. equities or stocks kind of a higher percentage for the time being, but they also monitor and they make changes on a regular basis in order to reduce the overall risk. Emerging markets, which is on this one, it's EM equities. You see that they've been, top box 3 out of the last 10 years. However, you can take a look down at the bottom, and they've also been the lowest. Minus 16%, minus 7%. So they can fluctuate drastically, and that's the way that the investments, our investment management team manages the funds, is making sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket, right? You want to make sure that there are some different sectors in there, some different geographical locations in order to balance out and make your investment ride as smooth as possible. Next slide, please. So the 3 key investing principles that we live by and we recommend and will continue to remind all of our clients: invest early, right? Even if it's $25 a month, invest early, invest regularly. Set up an automatic contribution that will coincide with your paychecks. A lot of people find that is the most effective way. And diversify your investments. The previous slide showed that not all sectors are top performers year over year. Make sure that you have some diversification in there in order to lower the risk and make your investment journey a lot smoother. Then, last but not least, we're here for you. Choose the right investments. We can create an investment plan. We got a great online tool called My Advisor that helps clients track and monitor their goals. You know, make adjustments to your plan. Life happens. You know, big bonuses can come through, promotions can come through. On the other side, you know, there's companies can downsize, and there might be a gap in your job. All of those things can be adjusted and revisited if there is something that happens both positively and negatively to your income. So on that note, I will wrap it up. Again, a lot of information that I've kind of presented over here. We do have a question and answer period, which we'd love to. And if we don't get through all the questions and answers or all the questions, we'll make sure that we respond to all the questions if we don't get to them in one way, shape, or form. So back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Julian, for the great presentation. I learned a lot myself as well. So, and you know, as you said, it's really important to know how to save, where to invest, and you already covered so much great tips and advice. And so as you said, yes, so we're gonna cover the questions now. We have time, but always the best way is to like a one-on-one, right? Like because each person's situation is different. So here is Julian's information. So for one-on-one advice, please feel free to contact him. All right, so we already got 9 questions in the chat box. So let's just start by the first question. Let me see. Now we have 11. All right, so the first question is, are these tax-free investment can be also exempt for income tax as well?
So tax-free investments income tax is you're not paying any income tax on these investments because you do not have to report the income with them.
Okay, great. And we have another great question about the RRSP. How many RRSP accounts we can have for 1%?
Yeah, great question. So the answer is you can have essentially unlimited RRSP accounts, but that would get a little bit messy and confusing trying to keep track of everything. But what's more important is that your RRSP contribution limit, no matter how many accounts you have to stay under that. And just quickly, you earn RRSP room by filing your taxes, earning income and filing your taxes. When you get your tax return back, there's going to be a statement from Canada Revenue Agency saying that, you know what, if you made, $50,000, your contribution limit is going to be $9,000 for the next year. You just have to remember, it doesn't matter how many, you might have one at your employer, you might have a do-it-yourself account, what have you. Make sure that if your limit is, let's say $9,000 in the example, that you do not go over that contribution limit. Every single year you earn, every single year that you file your taxes, that limit is going to go up and it will carry forward. So if you can't do it this year or the next year, don't worry, it's going to be there for you in future years.
All right, thank you, Julian. So we have another interesting question here. If we can withdraw money without any money, I think that he meant like, or this is from Amoin. Amoin means that without any penalty or we can always easily withdraw from tax-free. So what is the importance of checking account? I think Amoin wants to know what the difference between tax-free and checking. So
yeah, certainly. Your checking account is used for your day-to-day. So you take your debit card, your bank card, and you can tap it or put in a PIN, get a coffee, pay your bills, all of this type of stuff. The tax-free savings account, because you should be putting money into the tax-free savings account for a goal in the future. It's not designed for a day-to-day transaction account. It does you no good in order to put money into a tax-free savings account and then start spending it right away. You're going to lose that tax efficiency. The other piece to that is that there are limits to tax-free savings accounts. So if you were to put, let's say, $6,000 in today, slowly spend it over the next few months with paying bills and stuff like that. So making the withdrawal, you're not able to put any money back into that tax-free savings account until you accumulate that room again. Okay, so tax-free savings account definitely used for medium to long-term goals. Checking account, that's your day-to-day stuff. You won't have access to the tax-free savings account if you go to a store and try to pay for it.
Perfect, thank you. And also another question again about the tax, like how much, do we pay tax when we withdraw money from the RRSP, same as tax-free?
Yeah, no, for sure. Tax-free savings account, again, no tax. No tax on the tax-free savings account. Whether you earn within it or you take money out, there is no tax implication. Now, for the RSP, when you withdraw money out of the RSP, you will have to claim it as income. So let's say you're in a 30% tax bracket right now, and you're making a contribution, you're going to get 30% back, okay? The intention for the RSP is obviously to grow tax-free until you retire. But when you retire, you're not going to have that income coming in anymore. So if you were to take that money out, you might only be paying a 10, 15, 20% tax rate, which is much lower than the 30% benefit that you received right now. So yes, the short answer is that you will have to pay taxes on your RSP, but it's going to depend on what your income is during retirement.
Okay, perfect. So there is another question kind of related to RRSP withdrawal. I've heard that we can withdraw a portion of RRSP when we are buying the first house. Is that correct? So this is a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as you do not have real estate in your name, essentially for a 5-year period, and that's globally. Okay, so we have clients who have sold property back at home. They've moved to Canada, and on that application, when you ask the government if you're allowed to take money out of your RSPs, it's going to ask you, do you or don't you have you owned real estate within the last 5 years? If you can answer no, you have not, then you can take up to $35,000 out of your RSP temporarily, tax-free, in order to help with that down payment or some of the closing expenses associated with it. So that is one of the things that you can take money out of your RSP before retirement. The catch to that is that you will have to repay that withdrawal over a 15-year period in order to ensure that you aren't taxed on it. If you don't repay it, you'll get taxed on a portion of it in any year that you don't repay on that one. A very good question.
Perfect, thank you. And I see another interesting questions here from Lorraine. So if the deposited amount of money grows in the tax-free and the total amount becomes more than the allowed contribution room, will I get a penalty?
Great question. The answer is no. There is no penalty, and any growth in your tax-free savings account does not count towards your contribution room. So if you have $10,000 contribution room, you put $10,000 in and you grow it to $15,000, there is no penalty and there is no tax associated with you earning that or withdrawing it. So great question.
Okay, great, thank you. And Alireza is asking that how we can reach out to you for a one-on-one investment, and how much is your commission?
Yeah, sorry, what was the first part of that question? I'm trying to...
how they can reach out to you. So Alireza, so you can see on the screen that if you need to reach out to Julian, so you can email him, you can call him, or there is a QR code that you can just scan it easily through your device, and it takes you to all of the information. And do you charge any commission, Julian? I know the answer, but I wanted you to answer it. So.
Yeah, no,
how much
absolutely. So no,
yeah.
No. So at our role at the branch, we do not have any direct commission. Depending on the type of investment that is decided on, savings accounts, obviously you don't have any management fees. The GICs don't have any management fees. If you start taking a look at mutual funds, depending on the type of mutual fund, the fund manager will charge a fee based on the amount of assets. Typically, that will run between 0.7% annually and about 2% annually, depending on the type of portfolio that is best suited for you. Again, a conversation to have one-on-one, but no, we ourselves do not charge commission on our investments.
Exactly. You always can get free advice from RBC Advisor for sure. And then from Sam Reedy, great session. So should we bring all of our savings from our home country? What are your thoughts on it, Julian?
Yeah, it depends on where you feel you're going to be spending it. Essentially, is the short answer. So I don't have an answer for you directly because I don't know your particular situation, what your longer term goals are. However, that would be definitely one of the priority questions of where are you going to be spending it, and what goals do you have for it.
Perfect. Great question. And another one from Varuni. So who's gonna make a decision of investment portfolio for tax-free and RRSP? So I mean that will the bank decide the best portfolio to get the max return, or should we keep an eye in the market fluctuation and decide it by ourselves?
Yeah, no, that's great. The branch staff, like myself and the rest of the team, are here in order to help make decisions if you're not comfortable making decisions yourself. However, we do have options to do it yourself. So you can open up what's called a self-directed brokerage account. It's a TFSA, RSP, non-registered. We have all of those options, and you're at the controls. So you make the decisions. You take a look at the options and can go ahead and buy and sell within a self-directed account. So both options are there for you.
Okay, perfect. So can we open the account before arrival? I would say that if you're talking about the saving or checking account, so pre-arrival, so you can reach out to myself or Ria. We can guide you in order to open a saving account pre-arrival. But regarding the tax-free and RRSP, so you need to be here in Canada, right, Julian?
Yeah, you have to have the contribution room. Like you could open them up, but it wouldn't make sense to do it until you have the contribution room established already in order to avoid confusion with the Canada Revenue Agency.
Exactly. So, and we have a great question regarding the RESP account actually. So the max figure of 2,500 in RESP, is this the maximum to qualify for the grant, or the max that can be saved annually?
So that, so the 2,500 can be put into the RESP annually, and the grant will be credited until you receive $7,200 worth of grants. So essentially, you can make $2,500 contributions and get the grant until you get that the total of $7,200. So it's not a total. It can be saved annually. You can do larger lump sums, but you are not going to receive the grant. Like you could put $40,000 into an RESP. There is a total maximum, but the government would only give you the grant on that $2,500 in that year. Exactly.
So if you want to get the max of the grant, so you need to contribute $2,500 annually. All right. So there are more questions coming. I think
maybe we'll do one more, and then we'll take the rest of the questions offline and answer them. I have one over here that that we haven't specifically covered. It's from Kevin. What is the tax implication for withdrawing from an RRSP for reasons other than education or buying a first house? So the tax implications would be whatever your tax bracket is at the time of withdrawal. So if you are in a 40% tax bracket, when you make a withdrawal out of your RRSP other than education or first-time home buyers, expect the government to ask you to repay 40% of that. So that's the answer on that. So it really depends on your personal income in the year that you take money out you will pay tax on it.
Okay, great. So yes, there are other questions as well. So someone asking Sonia if they're going to receive the recording. So yes, they will receive the recording, right? And James also wanted to know when is the next, what is the next webinar? So Sonia gonna talk about it. Thank you so much, Julian, once again. So I'm handing over to Sonia.
Thank you so much. Very, very informative. I learned a lot as well. So thank you so much for sharing all that information. Yes, so everyone will receive a recording sometime tomorrow, but you can always use the link that you used today to watch it in a couple of hours, maybe 2 more hours, and the recording will be ready. And you can watch it again. You can share it with your network, whatever you like. And I'm just going to go over to our slide just to let you know what our next webinar is. It's actually on Thursday, how to budget your first 6 months in Canada. This is not really banking related per se. It's more like, you know, how to budget for your first 6 months in Canada. So when you come here, what are the expenses that you may be looking at? How to look for housing, how to settle down, buying your first car, just how much, you know, you need to know to budget within the first 6 months of arriving, how much money to bring, mostly settlement questions related. So that's the next webinar that's coming up. And for our other webinars, you can go to our website to find out what other webinars are coming up here. So accessemployment.ca/online event series. There's a whole list of webinars for you to select from. Register for all of them. Even if you can't attend, you'll get a recording to watch later. And if you'd like to start practicing your English conversation skills, you can join our Talk English cafes. We have them pretty much every day of the week. So feel free to register for them as well. And if you'd like for us to start helping you with your job search, please call your closest ACCESS location and someone will be able to start helping you. And if you are, so I said I'd mention a little bit about our pre-arrival services. So if you are, you have your PRs and you will be moving to Canada sometime in the next few months, you can email cec@accessemployment.ca to see if you'd be eligible for any of these programs on the screen here. And please stay in touch with us. We are very active on our social media, so follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to see what's happening here at ACCESS. So thank you all for attending, and a very big thank you to the RBC team for putting this together. We'll see you again soon. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Thank you again.
Thanks, Julian.